Good morning, and welcome to the Lone Star Weekly Business Hour. Your host, Rick Schissler, is a Silver Fox advisor who personally has over 40 years of experience as a serial entrepreneur. So sit back, pull out your pad and pencil, and get ready to take notes as we join Rick Schissler in his Lone Star Weekly Business Hour.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us for this edition of the Weekly Business Hour. This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor, and your host for the Weekly Business Hour. Well, let's get started with today's show. We'll start with our thought for the week. Where are we now? Then a quick check-in with Dick on the business of Lone Star. And then our special studio guest today is Stacy Harris with Impressions by Stacy Harris, who will join us and talk about her business. So sit back, get ready, pull out your pad and pen, and let's get started. First, a reminder, if you have a question or a thought about the show, either during the show or after the show, please send me an email. You can reach me at Rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. Well, the thought for the week. Where are we now? Well, I'm going to kind of climb up on a soapbox today, and I do that every once in a while. If you're a regular listener, you hear me do this. We've had a lot of things happen in the last week in our country. The events that happened in Dallas, Baton Rouge, St. Paul, all over the United States, we've had some terrible, ugly things happening. And we've seen all kinds of responses. We've seen all kinds of talking heads on TV. But what I want to talk about is how does that affect your business? How does this conversation that's flared up into such ugliness affect your business? And I think there are 2 points you need to consider as you watch or listen or read about what's going on. Is first of all, I think we have to determine who we are. You know, I heard a sermon this past weekend where the minister pointed out, he says, we're all human beings. And racism really at the heart of it is a lie. It's a lie created by people on a social basis. God created us equal, but we created the term racism to explain away bad behavior. But the fact is we are all the same, coming from the same source. We're all human beings, and it's important that we as individuals and business owners particularly, I think we have to accept the fact that we are all from the same flesh, even though our hair may be a little different, our facial features may be a little different, and yes, even the color of our skin. I think unless you start a discussion from the right perspective, your own perspective, you're going to have a hard time being successful in changing things. And the second point I want to make as far as your business is what you consider when you hire people. You need to look for people who fit your culture and people that fit your business without consideration to their skin color, race, etc. It is hard to hire good people in my experience in the businesses that I've owned and run throughout my life. And if I put up a roadblock or a filter that takes in consideration things such that people are different in the color of their skin, their race, or etc., in other areas, then I eliminate, I think, a good part of the labor pool that might just serve my business, my customers very well. Well, I'm going to climb off the box and encourage you. Open up, get involved in discussion, and most importantly, work to make your business a better business. You're in the right place if you're a business owner, manager, or you're considering starting your own business, because the Weekly Business Hour is where Montgomery County comes to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve your business, and to hear from some of our own local business leaders on how they have found success right here in Montgomery County. Remember, we're on Facebook. The Weekly Business Hour has its own page, and if you like the show and would like to continue to receive it on a regular basis, then like us on Facebook, again at the Weekly Business Hour page. Now, let's check in on the business right here at Lone Star. Dick, what's on tap for Lone Star this coming week?
We are currently doing a little construction around the studio, so if you notice some in and outs of the stream, that's because we're upgrading all of our equipment and moving forward to the FM signal edition with 104.5 and 106.1. So keep your ears out, and also follow us on Facebook with Lone Star Community Radio for updates about when that's happening and the announcement with the TV deal we're doing with the city of Conroe. So stick around with that, and that's what's going on this week.
Well, it's great to hear about your expansion. It's a fun place to be in your business when you're growing, you're expanding, and I always like the building part as well. And if you have a chance, stop by the studio, at least look in the window because it's on the air most of the time, and you'll see the new construction taking place. Well, now let's move on to my favorite part of the show, and that's where we visit with our studio guest. And I'm so pleased today to have Stacy Harris with Impressions by Stacy Harris joining us to talk about her business and her success. Stacy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Well, good morning to you. It is a great morning this morning, a great morning to talk about business. Tell us a little bit to get started, kind of let folks know who you are, a little bit of your business background.
Okay. Well, I am an image consultant, and when I say that, people don't usually know what that means. And so, I will start with the very beginning. I started out as a school teacher, so how most of us are doing what we went to school for now. So I started out teaching and did that for about 6 years and realized that I really wanted to do something a little bit more. Teaching is great. I decided it wasn't for me forever. And I went into sales, and I had about 10, 15 years of sales experience. And I always tell people I became my own business owner because I was a disgruntled employee. I really wanted to, I saw places in all the businesses that I worked where things weren't quite done the way that I thought they ought to be done. And I had ideas of my own, but I didn't have the freedom to really put those into place and to implement the things that I would like to have seen done to make the business grow. And it just really hit me one day through a conversation with a really good friend of mine of I needed to have my own business. And so I had been in retail sales for about 10 or 15 years, like I said, and mostly was working with women in privately owned boutiques. I was a buyer, merchandiser, did a lot of different things in the retail world and clothing and fashion and things like that. And when we ended up moving to the Houston area, kind of settled in the Woodlands area, I realized that I was in a great spot to really have this image consulting business where I would work with people one-on-one and helping them to make a good impression, how to present themselves the way that they wanted to be presented and to really be able to make a good impression on people. And that started, a lot of it was just confidence, and a lot of that with the way they dressed and the way they carried themselves, the way they spoke to people and things like that. And so, like I said, when we ended up moving to this area, I realized that this was kind of the perfect spot for me to do it. So started my business 10 years ago, and I named it Impressions because you only get one chance to make a first impression. And
well, that you mentioned you obviously had this great background in sales, which I think is one of the best backgrounds to be in business. In fact, I've been told and read a number of times that a majority of people who start businesses come from a sales background. But what really gave you an idea to do impressions? I mean, to be this kind of consultant and offer services like you offer?
It was really, the business grew and it morphed, I always say, over time. When I first started out, I was working predominantly with women, personal services, personal shopping, total makeovers, and closet consultations where I go in and help them clean out their closets, decide what their personal style was going to be, how to present themselves. And more, the people that I was working with, they were business owners that were calling me. And so, of course, working with people in this way, you really get to know them well, and they start to tell you their struggles as business owners and why they are deciding to go through this personal transformation. And I found myself giving them a lot of business advice as I was giving them the personal advice on their personal appearances and things like that. And so over time, I got these ideas of how I could really work with businesses, and then these business owners that were my personal clients started inviting me to come into their places of business and work with their teams and their sales staff and their support staff on things like dress code, but then also just how to be friendly. It's kind of like what you're talking about in the beginning of your show of how important it is the people that we hire. Do they go along with the culture? Are they supporting the message that you want to go out, into the world about your business? And all that is about impressions. All of it.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And you made me think about, I was listening to what you're saying. There was a movie that came out several years ago called The Intern with Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway. And he's an older fellow that had been retired, wanted to go back to work, but he dressed up in a suit every day. And there's one scene in that movie where he's been hired as a quote-unquote senior intern, and he's working with a bunch of millennials, and they were asking the three young guys, you shave every day?
Yeah.
And he says, well, you have to make that impression. He talks about it.
That's right.
That's why he wears the coat and tie, right?
Yes, that's it. And there is a big disconnect between generations right now. I see that a lot with people, in how the people that own the business, they want to dress one way, and then their employees want to dress another way. And in a very, very indirect way, it can send out a mixed message to clients and to customers and things like that. So that is one of the things that I work on a lot with my clients now, corporate clients, is in helping the business owner and the sales team support staff have that communication so that the message that they're sending out is very consistent about who we are. Are we the button-down shirt and suit kind of company, or are we a little bit more laid back and more of a business casual? What is the atmosphere going to be? And it really depends upon the business and what kind of culture you want to have. But, if you think about it, when people walk into your place of business, the first thing they see is the way that people are dressed in the office. And immediately an impression is made of what that office is about. Is it professional? Are these people, in 7 seconds, people decide about you based on your appearance. And they decide that about your company as well. So it's a really short time span that you have to be able to make the impression that you want to make.
Well, I think that's so important. And it's sometimes I find, and I don't know what your experience, I'd love to hear, that the company decides what it wants to look like, but they don't take the client or prospective customer really into consideration.
Right.
Do you find that?
Right. I do, yes. And a lot of times it's a little bit backwards, and that is a big challenge. One of my clients that I work with, he classifies himself as a blue collar worker. And that's what he told me when we sat down to talk, but yet he's running a multi-million-dollar business. And he is working in people's homes, and these are multi-million-dollar homes. And so my message to him, he wanted to look like one of the workers. He was out digging dirt and helping them and overseeing the jobs and that kind of thing. So he felt like he needed to be one of the people. But, my message to him was, if you're wanting to expand your business and give your people more work to do, you've got to look like the owner of a multi-million-dollar business. You need to look like $1 million when you walk into a house. In a multi-million-dollar house. So.
Well, and I think that's good advice. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we need to take a short break here. We come back, we're going to visit with Stacy a little bit more about Impressions by Stacy Harris and how it really helps business be more successful. So please stay with us.
Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's community radio station, and we are looking for talk show hosts and volunteer DJs for our music shows. Are you interested in having your own talk show on Lone Star, or have you always wanted to live out your dreams of being a music DJ? With the addition of Conroe's FM 104.5 and 106.1 and video aspects of our talk shows, we are needing people to grow with us. If you or someone you know might be interested, please contact us online at irlonestar.com/contact us, or call the station at 936-647-5747 for more information.
Tailorized PR works exclusively to get your business noticed. Public relations is how others perceive you and your company. By tailorizing the marketing strategy exclusively to your business, your story is told. Tailorized PR services include networking, social media, blogs, press releases, public appearances, and event planning. To learn about Tailorized PR, call Margie Taylor at 936-828-6881 or visit the website at tailorizedpr.com. My business is tailored to you.
You are listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and this is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and host for the show. And we're here today visiting with Stacy Harris of Impressions by Stacy Harris. Before we get started, I want to remind you again that Lone Star Community Radio will also be available soon on FM 104.5 and 106.1 on your radio dial. We'll be offering you, the listener, both a tune-in and internet radio station. Okay, Stacy, back to it. I mean, you're helping people look better, fit the part, develop cultures and companies to maximize, I guess, their effort.
Right.
What are some of the other things that Impressions does?
I love to do seminars. I do a lot of public speaking, and one of the things that I love to do in my seminars is talk about just presentation skills. We are all salespeople. If you're a if you're a business owner, you are a salesperson and you are the face of your company. And that applies no matter where you are, whether it is in the office, out on a sales call, in a meeting, or at the grocery store, wherever you are, you are the face of the business. So you're not only your personal presentation, but your presentation skills as far as how you're able to communicate to people about what it is that you do, what your company can offer, what your services are. Those are all so important. Being able to put together a good proposal and to sit comfortably with somebody, whether it's one-on-one or in a group, and be able to really share with confidence who you are and what your company is about. And so when I sit down in consultations with business owners, that's usually the first session we have is usually a 2 to 4 hour session. And that whole thing is really about identifying who you are. I find a lot of times companies call me when they're in what I call an identity crisis, where they're just not really sure. I love to work with businesses that are just starting out to really help them be very firm in who they are and what is the clientele that they are looking to serve with their business. But a lot of times I find businesses they've been in business 2, 3, 5 years. They've kind of hit maybe a plateau. They've just come off a big growth spurt, and then maybe they're going down a little bit, and they're kind of going, oh my goodness, what happened? And a lot of times when they hit those growth spurts, they start they just say yes to all kinds of business. Yes, we can do that. We can do that. We can do that. And I always tell people, just because you can doesn't mean you should, and stick with what you know and what you do best. And so a lot of times when people come to me and they're kind of at this identity crisis phase, it's just because they really lost focus of who they are and what they're wanting to accomplish with their business and who they're wanting to appeal to. So, that's a lot of the seminars that I do are based on that. I love to talk about networking. I'm a relationship person. I believe 1,000% in the importance of, I believe that longevity in businesses is built upon the relationships that you make. And so I love to teach people networking skills. And I was at a networking breakfast on Friday, and I made a comment of, I like to teach people just how to be good humans, how to be good to people, to when you go into different networking situations, as you meet new people, that you don't make it just all about you and your business and what you can sell to them, but that you find out about the other person and how you can help them, what you can do to make their lives better. It may not turn into immediate business, but down the road it will.
Well, let me ask you that, because that leads into one of the questions I had, and I've asked this question before, so I'll let you know that. But obviously, I think your approach to networking is a little bit different than I've heard before. But what is, if you could sum it up, networking effectively, what is the secret to doing that?
I think it goes back to making it about the other person, really finding out about who it is that you are talking to. I think so often when we go into networking events, I always say, you tend to squeal in on 2 tires, park your car, grab a handful of business cards, run into the event, you're out of breath, go in, and then just start networking. Well, there's no thought that's gone into it. There's not a plan. There's not a process. That you don't have any goals in mind when you go into it. And when you go in that way, you're only thinking about yourself and what you can get out of the event. I think if you can, take a few deep breaths before you walk into an event, have in mind who it is that you're hoping to connect with. What kind of business owners, people are you really looking to find that you could build a relationship with, where you can build each other's pipeline. Then I think that makes all the difference. If you go into it, I've heard it said many times that networking is about farming, not hunting. It's not about going into a situation and seeing how many arrows you can throw and how many things you can kill. It's about planting seeds with people and developing relationships, and it does take time. And a lot of times people go into networking, they want immediate results, and instead of taking the time to build relationships. So it's so important when you can connect with somebody on a human level and really let them know that you care about them as people, not just their business or what they could do for you, but that I care about you and what's going on in your life, the new home that you're building, or you're about to go on vacation, or that you're hiring somebody new and you're not sure about it. And then when I follow up with you in an email or a phone call and say, hey Rick, how are things going? How was the vacation? It tells you that I was listening and that I remember you. I don't just remember your business and what you can do for me, but I remember you. And so I think that if you can do that, if you can truly make it about the other person and developing a true relationship with them on some level, then it will be life-changing for personally, but also for your business.
Well, you make an excellent point, and I think I use a little tool that is not something I dreamed up. I'm curious about other people. I'm curious about their businesses.
Right.
In fact, we talked a little bit about that before the show. I want to learn about what they're doing. I mean, and part of that gets into what I do as a Silver Fox advisor, but I really want to understand what is their business is about.
Right.
And so that helps me ask questions and get into a discussion. So I think everybody has to develop some kind of tool or keep on focus, because we're always thinking about our business.
That's right.
I mean, if we're an entrepreneur or a new business person, small, it's hard to back up say, hey, this is different.
You tend to have a one-track mind about it. I always tell people the best question, for people that they're more introverted and it's kind of hard for them in networking situations, I always tell them, if you'll ask this one question, it will evoke conversation. Ask people, how did you get started in your business? There's always a good story behind it. that's always something to talk about. You're going to find out so much good information just by asking a question like that.
Well, you mentioned that you publicly speak about different topics, generally about making better impressions, whether it be in sales or whatnot. What are some of the other techniques that you use to help teach people to make better impressions?
Well, I talk to them a lot about, we do start out with the personal appearance. That's a lot of it, because it comes from confidence. And a lot of times people don't make a good impression because they're so wrapped up in their own heads. They feel so self-conscious that maybe they feel like in their minds they aren't as good as the other business people that they're meeting, that they aren't as successful, that their business isn't as big, that they're just starting out. And so there's this lack of confidence that they have. And so a lot of that can be overcome just by personal appearance, by knowing that you're putting your best foot forward when you step out there. So I do speak with people a lot about that. I speak with them also on, besides the networking, but also where are they networking? So, there are a lot of people out there what I call serial networkers, and they just kind of go from one networking event to event to event to event, but they continue to go places that they're not reaping any rewards from it. And so I really help them look at where are they spending their time, not only who are they networking with, but where are they networking? Are they meeting the people? Are they making the connections they need to make? Most of the time we're able to eliminate about 70% of the events that they're going to, because it boils down to they're really getting business from about 20 to 30%, of the places that they're actually going to. So we discuss, a lot about that, of just where are you spending your time.
Well, I think that's, on time management, you kind of get it, but strategically, and I don't think a lot of people consider that with networking. They go because they like the people, they like the location,
right.
And I think you're 100% on point.
Right.
You've got to strategically, it's nothing wrong with trying something, but you've got to strategically, just like business, find where you fit and what works, right?
Yeah, and I love that word strategic. I love that word, and that is something that I talk with people a lot, is just developing strategic partnerships, as far as who are the people that you could possibly do business with, who are the people that are good to know, that can constantly be a resource of sending you people that will be good and that you can send to them. So often we go in and we're just looking for people that we can make that immediate sale with, or that one person can become our client. It's not about just the one person in front of you. It's about the contact sphere that person in front of you has. And so if you can find people that you work in tandem with that are looking for the same clientele that you are, but you're in two different industries, there are magical things that can happen. And you're able to all of a sudden be feeding each other business constantly because you've developed this relationship.
One of the things that you've talked quite a bit today about appearance, physical appearance and whatnot. And just something funny I read this weekend, and they were talking about how people and their appearances, and it was based on a big study. They found that if they gave individuals a lab coat, a doctor's coat, they called it, they had a certain amount of confidence.
Right.
And they ran them through some tests, abstract stuff, but the idea of they just had some new confidence. And then they talked about how to appear and how you should appear, and why, just what you've touched on. But what do you think about red shoes?
About red shoes? Well, red is my favorite color, so I'm thinking it's a good thing.
They pointed out that like a teacher or professor comes up and they've got on red tennis shoes, but otherwise they're dressed normally. That really wasn't a bad thing, because it showed they had a lot of confidence, but they weren't too unusual.
Showed some
in other
personality.
words, I see myself in a suit,
Right.
put a pair of red tennis shoes on.
Well, like I said, I love red.
Yeah.
I think you have to know your audience. It's all about it. your dress should definitely reflect your personality, and I'm all for that. I don't know that I would recommend as a professor. I think my dad is a professor, so I know that as a professor, you are a teacher, you are an example, you are held in higher esteem than other people, and so, I think in that you want to look professional in your dress, that everything you do will be in your appearance portrays a professional. So I don't know that I would do the red tennis shoes, but
well, what you're saying to me is you got to be careful with that edge if you're looking for an edge.
You do. And a lot of times people, they're trying to express their personality through their dress, and I get that, and I'm all for that, but I think that there's a way to do that, but you're still able to, I always tell business owners, you have to look like you do what you say you do. If you tell people, I'm a banker, but you're in t-shirt and jeans at a networking event, I find that hard to believe that you're a banker. You don't look like a banker to me. You don't really look dependable to me. I don't think I'm going to let you handle my money because you don't look like. It creates this feeling of mistrust almost, because there's not that congruency of I do this, but you look like this. So I think for business owners, that's really key, especially small business.
Well, I think that's well said. And Stacy, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. You've
Thank
given
you.
us a lot of good information. I hope our listeners have picked up on it. Some basics, I think, that people just have to catch on to be more successful in their business.
Mm-hmm.
I know you have an event coming up that people can attend. Would you want to tell us about that?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you. It is July 26th from 9 a.m. to 11:30. My colleague, Dr. Carla Sanchez, and we have actually founded the Woodlands Professional Speakers Academy. We're going to be having a seminar on how to sell from the speaking platform. And this is going to be great for salespeople. We're going to cover presentation skills, some personal image things, but a lot of it is going to be about how to put together a great presentation, how to be a good storyteller, how to connect with your audience, how to ask for the sale. That's so important. A lot of times we know how to tell people about what it is that we sell, but we don't know how to actually close the sale without it being pushy and obnoxious. So it's going to be a 2.5-hour seminar. It's going to be great. It's going to be at the offices of the North Houston Hispanic Chamber in the Woodlands, and can go to my website, impressionsbystacyharris.com, to find out more about it.
Well, that sounds great, and I would encourage people, anybody, even if you think you're really good at selling, it's great to go to these kind of seminars. I know Stacy and Dr. Carlos do a great job with what they're doing. Again, thank you for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at the bottom of the hour. We're going to take a break now, and when we come back, I'm going to talk to you, among other things, about our Silver Fox Advisor Tip of the Week. So please stay with us.
Running a business is hard. Pressure to maximize profits and minimize loss continue to grow. Schooley Mitchell of Houston can help. Their independent consultants will ensure you are receiving the best communications and credit card processing services at the best prices. Most importantly, their services are completely risk-free. If they don't find savings for you, there is no fee. Contact Schooley Mitchell of Houston today to find out. Call 832-314-1815 or visit their website at schooleymitchell.com/JM-Polio.
This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox Advisor and the host of the Weekly Business Hour. Welcome back. This is the part of the show where we talk about news and ideas that I hope you can use in your business even today. First thing I'd like to talk about is a great little article I came across, posted by, my friend Patty Block. 5 critical team members for business success. 5 critical team members for business success. Now, I know a lot of you in the audience might not even have 5 employees, or if you do, a lot of your employees are out on the line, so to speak. They're not really part of a management team. Having 5 people on the management team is a big deal. But reality, and you know it if you're listening and been in business, and if you haven't, get ready to learn. You got to wear many hats in business. But I think this is a little checklist that's real good to review and talk about 5 separate parts of the business that need attention on a regular basis. First, you start off with the leader. You need a leader. Every business needs a leader. Well, the leader is usually, again, the founder of the business, the people who start the business. They provide the leadership of the business. And their main function, really, is to support the employees' efforts by providing needed resources, guiding principles, and agreed-upon priorities. That's leadership. The second hat or second employee is an expert. Every business can use, in my opinion, as much experience as it can get. and those are the experts. Now, typically, again, the business owner, business founder, or founders, plural, are the people that have an expertise in the business. But it doesn't hurt to surround yourself with other people at all different levels, all different jobs, who have experience. Experience is a great driver and a part of the success of a business. So we all need some experts or people who are experienced around us. This is one, the next one, the financial guru, as was called in this article, that I find a big weakness in many businesses, particularly small businesses, those that don't have a full-time accountant. Many times, if you have a full-time bookkeeper, the bookkeeper, if they're sharp enough, can serve in this function to some degree, but typically you've got to reach a level where you have a controller and then even a CFO. Some of us have those kind of people accessible to us through our accounting firm, or we have part-time people that serve in those functions. It is important, though, to have someone who knows the numbers, who understands the numbers, who can be trusted to deliver correct numbers and information to the business. And again, many times I find businesses are weak. They have a bookkeeper or they outsource that, and they really spend little or no time studying and understanding the numbers and what the business is doing. The fourth one is the strategist. We talked about that a little bit in our last segment with Stacy Harris. It's very important that the business have a strategist. This could be any employee. It can be the owner or founder if they're not too busy running the business itself. This is the person who has the time to look ahead, not just take care of the day-to-day. Many times I find that myself, I'm called on to be a strategist or an advisor, so that I'm being outsourced. I'm outsourced to me to work with the owner or owners of the business in developing strategy. But in any business, we always need to keep an eye on the future and develop our plans as time permits or is needed to make sure that we have a solid foundation to build our business to and grow to. And then fifth, not least, is what this article called the executioner. I call it the operations person. Typically, again, this hat is worn by the owner of the business. But you reach a point in your business, hopefully you have someone whose responsibility is to make sure everything runs well every day. Everything runs well. So that if you're the owners of the business, you can be involved in other activities, and the business will run continuously, day in and day out, only interrupting you on occasion when it's needed to make decisions to change a process or proceed in a different direction. So there are 5 critical parts of a business, I think, on a day-to-day simplified basis that you need, and I hope you'll consider those. The next area I'd like to talk about is, it's kind of a funny thing. You know, we all go through the day, the week, the month, the year, and from time to time, I feel my confidence slip. My confidence in myself or confidence in a client or vendor or something. And I came across this little article put out by Peter Economy and 7 quick ways to build your confidence. It's kind of a cutesy thing, but I think it's got some critical things in here that might help you. The first thing, if you're feeling kind of down, you're not confident, sit up straight. Make sure your posture's right. It's funny, if we kind of slide into our chair and we're feeling kind of down, what it can do just to sit up straight. Smile. Put a smile on your face. Probably want to make sure nobody's looking. They might think you're a little strange, but try to smile. That does things with your brain and makes you feel more confident. You can talk to yourself. Now, be careful there, too, as well. Make sure nobody's looking. But review the positive qualities you have. Don't get sucked into so much negative. Think or consider the worst outcome of the situation that's kind of got you down. Think about it, and you'll realize that you can probably just push through this. If the worst of the worst happens, have a plan, so to speak, and this sort of causes your fear to kind of slip away or subside. Do some primping. Go to the bathroom, look in the mirror, smile at yourself, say, hey, I can do that. Comb your hair. Look at yourself. Make sure you look good. Because as Stacy talked about, if you look good, you feel good, you will do good. It's very important. Grab a snack, but make sure it's healthy. Veggies, fruit, something like that. Some of us are motivated by what we eat. And last but not least, breathe. Take a good old-fashioned deep breath, let it out, and with it, let that fear, that loss of confidence go away. So if you find yourself in that position where you're kind of down, you lost a little bit of your pep and your confidence, take a break, short break, and do one of these techniques, and you'll be amazed what will happen to bring you back up to speed, ready to do battle with the next event or situation in your business. Last thing I'd like to talk about, and I found this very interesting, is an article that I came across on Fox Business News, and it was that millennials, we keep talking about those millennials out there, those people born between 1982 and 1997. They want more risk than the older generation, than the baby boomers, which I'm one of, according to a survey done recently by Wells Fargo Bank. They spent a lot of time and effort, and they found that there's certain things about millennials that really dispel a lot of notions or ideas that even I had about millennials. First of all, they found that 80% of millennial entrepreneurs say they plan to grow their business over many years, and they want to pass that business down to their children, even though 59% didn't even have kids yet. Now think about that. They were already thinking that far down the road. My impression was millennials thought about day to day, hour to hour. Not a lot of thought put in. But ones who have started businesses, that at this point at least is part of their business plan, is to pass their business down. 80%. That's a huge number. These people between 19 and 35 years of age look at their business as a long-term investment. And to me, that's the way to look at it. You look at a business, it's not a quick in and out. This kind of plays into exit strategy, which I talk about on occasion. They're looking at their business as long-term investments. They recognize an investment in their business is an investment in their future. Well, isn't that the way it's supposed to be? I believe it is. I believe that's the way it always should be. But again, many times we have looked at, and I've had clients that work with millennials who have children who are millennials, and they're talking about their business and say, hey, they're not going to take this business over, or hey, I don't want to put them in a critical position because they're just not going to stay with it. They're not going to stay focused. Well, this survey by Wells Fargo seems to dispel a lot of that. It also turns out they're equally wary of owing debt, of having debt, but they also feel it's important to take on some debt to grow, even if it means carrying a balance on credit cards. While only half of the boomers, like myself, feel that is okay. 2/3 of the millennials think it's okay to finance their business if they have to through their credit card. I don't know what that says. That's very interesting. I mean, the high interest rate and whatnot, but they want to carry the debt for one reason, and that's to grow the business. People from both generations, the boomers and the millennials, they started their business primarily to gain control of their future. And that's important to understand. There's common ground there. They want to control their future. That's why they own a business. A vast majority of them feel that way. They don't want to work for someone else because they want to control their business. And I think that's the common ground, that the boomers and older than boomers can work with millennials, either as employees or partners, is they have that common ground. They want to control the future. And despite all the things that are going on in the economy, the survey said that 3/4 of millennials are optimistic about business growth in the coming years, when only about 1/2 of the boomers, who were older than 36 years of age, are optimistic about the future. So that is a big plus in our economy. We've got an age group that is absolutely looking to grow and willing to fight through good and bad times to make it grow. Last but not least, a little note at the bottom of the survey: an alarming number of these millennials have no business plan. So they want to grow their business, they want to put it into the future, they want to pass it on, but they haven't taken time to put a plan together to do it. I'm a Silver Fox advisor. I'd be glad to help you do that, millennial, if you're listening today. Well, thank you. That's news and ideas you can use. We're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, our last segment, our Silver Fox Advisor Tip of the Week. So please stay with us.
Are you paying too much for your personal or business insurance? Patricia Cooper Insurance on FM 1488 and Tamina Road is an independent agency that can shop multiple carriers to find the best rates and coverages to fit your specific needs. Call us today at 281-356-9955 and let us go to work for you. Patricia Cooper Insurance, where our customers are treated like family.
You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and this is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and host. and we are at the final segment of today's show. And this is where I like to talk about and convey the Silver Fox Advisor Tip of the Week. Tip of the Week this week I entitled, Do You Need to Take Government Economic Reports Seriously? You know, that's something I kind of go back and forth. You know, we're in small business together. A lot of you are probably sole proprietors. If you have employees, you have a handful of employees. And maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe some of you have several hundred. Is it relative to you then to pay attention to all this reporting, this economic news that comes out from the government? Let me give you just a quick shot at what I'm talking about. This was published in the Wall Street Journal this weekend. U.S. consumer credit increased at a 6.818% pace in May. Americans took out more student audit loans, signaling greater comfort with more debt. Now, the question, again, is this important to your business on Main Street, your business in a shopping center, your business location, in your own warehouse building, wherever you are? Is it important that you follow this kind of information? If so, what can you do with it? I mean, what they were telling in this article is in May, Americans took out more debt, and they provide a lot of numbers. But it also said in the report, lenders and credit rating firms are warning that quality of debt on credit cards, auto loans, and student loans is weakening. In other words, these kind of reports typically provide trends. While consumer spending slowed in the first quarter, Americans picked up their spending in April, increased it again through May, seeming oblivious to the reported weakness in the job market. Consistent job creation has been a significant factor underpinning the home and car buying that had contributed to the economic growth in recent years. But whoa and behold, in June, non-farm payrolls grew by 287,000, which is a big number, and wage growth picked up slightly over last year, the Labor Department reported. And Consumer Confidence Index rose to its highest level since October of 2015. Now, what do you do with that kind of information if you're a small business person? Is there anything you change in the way you do business? To me, that's a mixed bag report. On one hand, people are taking on more debt. Those of us who are conservatives say, well, more debt moving to high levels is a warning sign, because at some point it's got to crash down. But on the other hand, employment was up for the month. It's up for the year at a fairly good pace. But our growth rate in this country, which wasn't reported in this report, is extremely low. Our GNP is down at 2%, give or take. Very low historically. The question still remains, what do I do with that information? Well, I think two things. One is, I think every business person should have an education and a basic knowledge of what makes our economy work. I think we should have a general knowledge of what historic, say, GNP numbers have been, that 3 to 4% growth rate is healthy. Typically, if you get much higher than that, you typically have a bust or a bubble that will burst. When you fall into lower levels, when you have 95 plus million people out of the labor force who could be working, not necessarily a good number, but you have to know these things, so you have to get educated, and I think that's important, that you find a resource, a book. If you'd like information on resources, please email me, rick@irlonestar.com. Be glad to connect with you, point you in a couple directions. But get that education so that when you see something like this in the news, you know what they're talking about, not just the snapshot of data, percentages, and information, and their opinion about what's going on. And I do think the second thing is very important, is that you keep a little bit of an eye. Even though you have a small storefront business on Main Street, the economy ultimately will impact what you're doing. I recognize that many people who've been in business for a long time have a lot of resources, including the customers that come in, the average ticket. All these things are extremely important. But the world as a whole, this country and what's going on, more particularly in our state and our neighborhood, is more important. But it's still important to keep an eye on our country as a whole, which are what these government reports report on, because eventually it boils itself down and has some impact on what we're doing. And I think certain amount of decision making, particularly related to growth of a business, can find this information useful. But it's only a brief snapshot. And again, I think you have to have a certain level of education, which you can obtain quite easily, to understand what these numbers really mean. And one thing I don't encourage you to do is turn on financial news, because you can sit there for hours and hours and walk away with a blank stare, because all they do is talk about these numbers and back and forth and opinions and whatnot. I do not believe that type of education is very beneficial to you as a business owner. You may have an interest in it for other reasons as an investor, but as a business owner, I think your time can be more wisely spent elsewhere. One of the things I'd like to do in finishing today's show, and I haven't done it in quite a while, is to remind you about the Silver Fox Advisors. I want to take an opportunity to thank them for being our show sponsors for so long. In the past, you've heard a number of our show guests talk about how important a mentor truly is to their business, success of their business. I believe every business leader needs someone from time to time to talk about who has the experience and willingness to give them the unvarnished truth about their business. A good mentor will tell you many times what you don't want to hear, or they will tell you the upside as well as the downside of your ideas and plans. If you or your business needs a mentor advisor, then I would encourage you to check out the Silver Fox Advisors. You can get further information at www.silverfoxadvisor.org or just contact me at 936-647-3776 to learn more. I encourage you also to visit our website here at the station, www.irlonestar.com, to stay up on everything, including business that's happening in Montgomery County. As we close today's show, I want to give a big Lone Star thanks to all our sponsors, Patricia Cooper Insurance Company, Schooley Mitchell, and Taylorized PR. Please put a note on your calendar to join us again next Monday right here on irlonestar.com at 11 a.m. Remember, you too can be a sponsor of the Weekly Business Hour by contacting me at rick@irlonestar.com for details. Look for the podcast of today's show on the Weekly Business Hour page of irlonestar.com and on our Facebook page later in the week. Until then, stay engaged this week and keep your focus on what counts in your business.
Thanks for checking out this production on Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's radio station. For more information on this show and other shows on Lone Star, check us out online at irlonestar.com. If you're interested in sponsoring a program on Lone Star Community Radio and reaching the local audience of Montgomery County on FM, internet, and TV media, please call 936-647-5747 or contact us online at irlonestar.com. This recording is a Lone Star Community Radio production, produced by the show host and Rick Schissler of Lone Star Community Radio. Interested in volunteering as a music DJ or starting your own talk show? Contact Rick Schissler at dick@irlonestar.com or by phone at 936-647-5747.